Ano yung baba ka na? Nandang din sa phone.
All right, let's turn the tables around and start this session with a question. Raise your hands if you have watched the movie Finding Nemo.
Recording in progress.
Dear Rotaractors, anyone? All right, okay, great. Looks like we have some Finding Nemo fans. Well, if you paid good attention to the movie, you would have recognized the diverse life of the coral reef in the movie. And if you didn't know, the home of Nemo is supposed to resemble the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. With that being said, a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ENLIGHTNER, a webinar organized by the Rotaract Club of University of Mora in order to restore and conserve our corals. Today is obviously not about Finding Nemo, but rather about the corals, like the ones in the Great Barrier Reef, like the ones in Sri Lanka, and the corals across the globe. So before we dive deep into the ocean and speak on behalf of our corals, let us take a moment to appreciate our generous sponsors. Project Zooxanthellae, our flagship project, would not have hit the shores and nurtured our coral ecosystem if not for our exclusive strategic partner, Mitsubishi Cooperation. Hence, let us now give the spotlight to our representative from our exclusive strategic partner, Mitsubishi Cooperation, to share their thoughts on our project. Senior Executive of Mitsubishi Cooperation, Ms. Menaka Seneviratne, this is your chance to address the gathering. The screen is all yours. Can we get an organizing committee member to unmute Ms. Menaka?
Hello, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you're audible and visible.
Right. Hi, so good evening, everyone. My name is Menaka Seneviratne, and on behalf of Mitsubishi Corporation, I would like to thank Rotaract District 3220 for organizing this webinar. Kindly allow me to introduce our company to you and our business activities. Mitsubishi Corporation is a global integrated business enterprise that develops and operates business together with its offices and subsidiaries in approximately 90 countries and regions worldwide, as well as a global network of around 1,700 group companies. MC has 10 business groups that operate across virtually every industry, namely natural gas, industrial materials, petroleum and chemical solutions, mineral resources, industrial infrastructure, automotive and mobility, food industry, consumer industry, power solution, and urban development. Through these 10 business groups, MC's current activities have expanded far beyond its traditional trading operations to include project development, production, and manufacturing operations, working in collaboration with our trusted partners around the globe. We are committed to conduct business with integrity and fairness, and we remain fully dedicated to growing our businesses while contributing to a prosperous society. Global sustainability issues have significantly evolved over the years and continue to change today. So MC recognizes the importance of staying attuned to changes within the global environment and society. And we aim to generate societal and environmental value by addressing key sustainability issues through our business activities, which span numerous industrial sectors. MC focuses on philanthropic activities in line with 3 overreaching themes. Number 1, realizing an inclusive society. MC aims to help realize a society where everyone can play an active role. We are continuing our activities to contribute towards a world where everyone can respect each other and coexist regardless of background, physical condition, or way of life. Number 2, empowering the next generation. So MC will actively support education, research, and capacity development in order to contribute to the growth and self-reliance of the next generation who will be responsible for tomorrow's society. And number 3, conserving the environment. MC is committed to environmental conservation efforts in order to pass on our irreplaceable earth to future generations and to realize a prosperous society where people live in harmony with nature. In addition, MC provides support for regions affected by natural disasters, including the recovery efforts for the Great East Japan earthquake. Our employees in Mitsubishi Corporation Japan and worldwide continue to actively participate in long-running programs that focus on contributing to the communities in which we operate on a global basis. Mitsubishi Corporation is also actively pursuing a wide variety of social contribution programs worldwide aimed at helping conserve the environment and bettering society as a whole. The Global Coral Reef Conservation Project, which is one of the environmentally focused projects, supports scientific research through the combined efforts of industry, academia, and the general public. Since fiscal 2005, MC has engaged in the Global Coral Reef Conservation Project, a project that is actively researching the causes and effects of the coral reef crisis. This project aims to help conserve the coral reefs around the world through a research-based approach. This research is being conducted in cooperation with universities, NGOs, and other organizations. As a part of the project, MC also recruits volunteers from inside and outside the company in a program designed to deepen people's understanding of the environmental issues. The project is developing research pursuing many different angles for coral reef conservation, and the main research of the project centers on 3 global locations. One is Okinawa, Seychelles, and Australia. So with the guidance from our head office, Mitsubishi Corporation Colombo branch has been working with many local partners in Sri Lanka in various CSR projects in the past. And we are delighted to be a part of the Estuary project and looking towards for the successful completion of the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Menaka, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, most importantly, for partnering with us and for contributing in our project. And also, we have to extend our sincere gratitude to our digital media partner, Impulse, for their support rendered in helping us organize our events and our project as well. Thank you. And now, moving on, when we dive underwater, we see this beautiful underwater rainforest, the coral reefs. And fun fact is that these corals are not plants. In fact, they are animals, just like the fish and you and me. Some of these corals have been alive even when the dinosaurs strolled across this earth. And yes, that's over 500 million years ago. In other words, they have been breathing even when our ancestors of our ancestors walked on earth. But are they still thriving as they were before? Well, a recent study suggests that we have lost nearly half of our coral reefs on Earth in the past 30 years. Now, this should be concerning because some of these corals have been alive for millions of years. So does this impact us? Well, we all have enough and more problems to deal with. So why should we bother about these corals? And if we bother, can we restore these dying corals? Will we be able to conserve them? Can we save them for the next future generation? Well, that is what we are here to discuss today. Those are the burning questions that we will touch within today's webinar. And for that, we've got an individual who is rich with knowledge and experience when it comes to corals. And just to let you know, rather than carrying out a one-sided talk like what happens in our university lectures, this time we will be having an interesting casual conversation, casual discussion, so that we all get the most of it and we all engage more effectively. And following this, there will be a quick Q&A session where we hear your doubts and get them clarified. And in addition to that, there will be a Kahoot quiz at the end based on what we will be discussing in today's discussion. So hope you all pay good attention, because we will be rewarding the winners with some delicious gifts. All right, with that being said, so for today's discussion, as you can see, we've got a professor in oceanography from the Department of Oceanography and Marine Geology at the University of Ruhuna. He has also been the head of the department of his university and has also contributed as the general manager of the Marine Environment Protection Authority, shortly known as MIPA. He has been a member in many national expert committees as well as international expert committees. He has contributed in many publications and has been entitled to many accolades as well. So this iconic individual is none other than Dr. Terney Pradeep Kumara. A very good evening to you, sir. Sir, are you there with us?
Yes, Adira. Very good evening to you and all of the participants today.
Thank you, and brilliant.
Yeah.
So it looks like we are ready to hit the show. All right. So before we start off, Mr. Professor, I am sure we've all encountered corals, at least in every underwater movie which we've watched, whether it's Finding Nemo or whether it's SpongeBob SquarePants. I'm sure we have all encountered corals. But are they just colorful rocks that appear in these movies, or are they just calcium carbonate structures that just lay underwater? What are they actually? So as a professor in oceanography, how would you answer this?
Yes, Sadira. Yes, let me first thank you and your team for organizing this, and at the same time, I must thank Mitsubishi Corporation and Impulse for supporting you, because always university graduates, they always need support, especially from the corporate sector. So I always believe that support is needed. At the same time, we need that collaboration between private public partnership. So I think this will be a good initiative, and I hope that this will flourish to a better future. Giving benefits to not only for you yet for the companies supporting you, right? Yes, coral reefs. Let's see whether we know coral reef enough or not, because as soon as I tell about coral reefs, you will see some beautiful pictures about some stones, right? It looks like a stone and looks like a some sort of clumps sometimes, huge the dune sometimes, but still the knowledge about corals are very much less as far as I understood. In addition to that, we believe that all the tourists, they know about corals, but the recent study revealed that more than 90% of tourists don't know actual coral reefs, right? What's actual coral reefs? So then that's about tourists. Then what about locals? So, as a island nation, how many of you can swim? So that's another issue I really want to raise. So we talk about conserving coral reefs. We talk about blue economy, and take the whole benefit of the ocean, because ocean is our jurisdiction. Our legal ocean is about 8 times larger than the country, and we are receiving much more ocean areas in the future. So as engineers, you know that the resources, they are on the top of the ocean and even the bottom of the ocean and sub-bottom. What is below bottom is oil and gas. So to take the whole benefit of that ocean, are you ready? So that's my question from my side to you guys, right? Then to understand that, I think the understanding of coral reefs will be the first step, right? So since you asked about the coral reefs, I will share some slides for you to show you, to give you some idea about what a coral reef and what is coral actually, right? So let me share my screen with you, and hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah.
Forward.
So this is a coral reef. So very basically, so this beruala. So this is a coral reef. It's a kind of, I can say, platform. You know, the platform you observe in a railway station. Very simple. It's a very thick, hard structure that runs parallel to the coastline, right? At the same time, if you look at the water surface here, you can see water surface here is very, very disturbing, but here is very calm. It means all the oceanic energy is absorbed by this coral reef and provide very flat, calm lagoons. We call this as a coral lagoons. So coral reefs always run parallel to the coastline and act as a barrier, right? So it's a kind of a rampart, maybe a fort, runs along the coast. So this is my very simple explanation about coral reef. It's a very 3D or three-dimensional, very thick kind of structure, right? Like a platform, very simply, right? So if I go to understand what coral reefs, let's try to understand 3 major coral reef types available present in our planet. This is the same coral reef, but in a cross section, right? This is the lagoon I mentioned. So this is a reef actually. This reef coming through from the bottom, and this is a reef flat, we call them. Then this is a reef slope that goes to the ocean floor. So this area is called reef crest, right? This is a reef flat where you walk most of the time. And it's a reef lagoon where you take bath and you snorkel and do fishing and do fish watching, or maybe fish, shooting, whatever. Very calm lagoon. Sometimes you encounter some seagrasses in this area, or sometimes mangroves. But if you think about the famous Hikkadua, no seagrass, very few seagrass, but no mangroves. But if you think about Polhena, no. Bar Reef, no. Even in Pigeon Islands, East West Coast, no mangroves. But in sometimes you can find mangroves accompanied corals, right? So this is a reef. So this is a reef I mentioned. It's a thick kind of platform, right? So there are 3 major types of coral reefs in the world: fringing reef, barrier reefs, and atolls. In Sinhala we call it Vetipara, Badakapara, saha atoll. Those are the Sinhala words: fringing, barrier, and atolls. So this is a fringing reef, this island. So the fringing reef is located just by the sea, by the coast. You can see this is a fringing reef. You can see it runs around the island. So you can just walk to the reef from the beach. So therefore, the human or anthropogenic impact on fringing reefs are very much intense. Always you go there and collect shells and collect lobster, so do fishing. At the same time, whatever you send through your canals and rivers are ended up in fringing reefs. Fringing reefs are very much disturbed and damaged, right? So this is a fringing reef. Then the barrier reef. So if I remove this fringing reef and locate this reef far away into the ocean, maybe 6-7 kilometers, or in the ocean we normally talk about nautical miles, 6-7 nautical miles away from the beach, that the same reef, right? Then we can call it as a barrier reef, because it acts as a barrier. And the distance from the shoreline to the barrier reef is several nautical miles, right? So the lagoon between the shoreline and the barrier reef is about 6-7 nautical miles, and the depth goes to 100 meters, 200 meters. Whereas in fringing reef, it's about 1 meter, 2 meters. You can easily walk into the reef and you can have a bath very safely, right? Therefore, the Great Barrier Reef, the world's largest reef, just you mentioned, that's a kind of barrier reef, is located far away from the coast. Therefore, the human impact the pollution impact is very much less there. Therefore, the water quality is very rich. Water quality is very, very transparent water. So if I show you some pictures, so if this is how I describe a fringing reef. I push this reef to a deep ocean, then it converts into a barrier reef. So barrier reef. Right? So this is how you can see the barrier reef. So this is Australia. So this is the barrier reef, the largest barrier reef on the eastern coast of Australia, right? So if I take a closer look here, this is barrier reef, a Great Barrier Reef we call, right? It's the largest reef system in the world, and it's very far away from the coast. You can see very high or very pure water. Visibility is very high. You can see underwater, several, maybe 25, 30 meters you can see underwater. I will show you. This is the water quality there, right? Very beautiful, very colorful, very vivid, very diverse, less, impacts from humans, right? Again, highly diverse biodiversity, right? So if I again ask you, questions about in tropical rainforest, so far we know the tropical rainforests are very much highly biodiverse. You can observe whatever the animal. But if you compare tropical rainforest with the coral reef, you can see all the animal phyla except one phyla. Those are frogs. Except frogs, you can see all animals in a coral reef, right? So if you dive there, this is a scene you expect to see. That's why I want you to first jump into the sea, without discussing coral reef being in the classroom or on a Zoom lecture, right? Right. Then the third one is atolls. Atolls are the kind of reef is a circular reef. You can see this is circular reef. So in that case, we can have open ocean, reef flat, reef crest, reef flat, and reef lagoon. Then again, reef flat, reef crest, and open ocean. So Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin is a very much famous scientist. He was well known for his theory about evolution. But before that, he was a marine scientist. So this is his definition about atoll formation. So this is a volcano. So around volcano, we can expect to have a fringing reef with the time. But fringing reef is developing, but the volcano is settling in the ocean. So when the volcano is settling in the ocean, you can see it settles down with the time. So this time scale is not 10, 15 years. It's about 500 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years time. So with the time, at the end, you will see this sort of circular reef exists, but totally the volcano disappeared. Right? This is the explanation for the formation of atolls. Right? So these are the three major types of atolls. This is atoll, right? So closest atoll we can observe in Maldives. We don't have atolls, but these are Maldives atolls. So these are habitable, right? These are some flat coral reefs. This is a coral lagoon again, right? So most of Pacific islands are atoll type, right? So we have three reefs: fringing reefs, bar reef, and atolls. So if you go to Hikkadua, and if you go to Polhena, if you go to Ussada area, so all the reefs are fringing reefs, right? Bar reefs are located in Great Barrier Reef of Kirinda. In Sinhala, we call it as a Maharavana Kudaravana Kutu. If not, we can find some reef system of Kalpitia. We call it as a bar reef. And if you go further up in Silavaturi Aripu, again some reef system. Those are the barrier reef we have, but those are not large as Great Barrier Reef, right? So this is a condition for coral reef formation. So we should have a sufficient light, sufficient salinity, lack of sediment, gentle currents, food supply, and temperature should be around 25-30. That is why you cannot observe coral reefs in polar region, right? In polar region, the temperature is almost close to 0, 1 to 3 degrees. Therefore, corals don't thrive there, right? But in some deeper places in tropics, you can even find some deeper water corals. So these are coral distribution in our planet, right? This is called coral triangle, like Bermuda. So the largest coral diverse area. We are in the second diverse group in Sri Lanka, East Africa, And again, Australia are giving the second diverse group. This is third the group, right? But anyway, so corals are kind of tropical phenomena, no, not polar phenomena, right? And this our reef system, as I mentioned, these are fringing reefs. This is barrier reef, Maharavana, Daravana Kupo, Great Barrier, Great Basses or Little Basses. And this is Bar Reef and Silavaturi Aripu, Wankale Reef System. These are bar reef, barrier reefs. All the reefs are Pasikuda, Kalkuda, Kayankani, then Pigeon Islands, Wakari, and around Jaffna Islands, all are fringing type. All of about in Sri Lanka, about more than 90% of corals are fringing types, right? So then you know about the reef now. Now we try to understand what is coral, right? So you know reef, now the coral, right? So this is a reef. So this is the same reef at the if you go closer to that, right? On that thick platform on the top, you can see coral colonies. You can see these are the coral colonies, right? Coral colonies give the guideline for the reef to grow, right? Like larger flowers, like larger lotus, right? So they are the main, the enforcement column, I can see. For example, if you take a concrete column, right? In the column, you can, there are iron bars. Corals are like this, but the rest of these are sediments settling in between corals and develop into a reef. So this is the same reef at the low tide. So these are live corals exposed at the low tide. These are algae. So algae is giving, the algae bind everything together, then develop the reef. But corals give the major structure, right? So since corals are very primitive animals, they have different body forms, the colony forms. We can say short branching, long branching, tabular, encrusting, various forms. So in this picture, you can see all their body forms. If I take one by one, you will get an understanding. So this is branching corals, right? They are branching. We call this as a coral thicket. So on the reef, you can see larger branches, branching coral colonies. So this is the diameter of this colony is about 1 meter, larger colonies, right? These are short branching. We sometimes call digitate, like fingers, right? And you can see again the dead reef flat. On the reef flat, they are growing, right? And these are again branching, very thin branches, right? But this is on the reef flat, right? And again, these are branching, long branches. And these are, we call it as a tabular or table shape. It has one single foot attaching to the coral reef. And these are encrusting. These in Sinhala we call as a kabula. So it takes the shape of the existing substrate, right? It covers everything and grow, spreading like an encrust, right? And these are boulders, like tumbasa kela pikan Sinhala, large boulder corals. And these are the same larger boulder corals, but in this case we call them as brain corals because the outer surface is almost resembling a brain, right? And these are mushroom corals because this looks like a mushroom. These are, we call them as a cabbage. But they have, I mentioned all the very common names, but they have their own specific names. This is Montipora, cabbage coral. This is a fungia species, mushroom corals. But under mushroom coral, there are a number of species, right? So those are coral colonies, right? In this case, this is a colony. This is a reef flat, right? So then we understood that in a reef, there are coral colonies, various types of coral colonies. Then try to understand what is a coral, right? This is we call this a reefs, like a landscape. This is a reefscape in Trincomalee, Pigeon Islands. Very, very healthy, right? All are live corals. So if you look at these branches, where you can see very dot kind of appearance here, right? So the same in deeper waters, the depth is about here is 8 meters. Larger coral plates you can observe. Right now, I take a closer look or take another species to show you what actually corals are. This is another small coral colony, right? Now I take a closer look here, right? Look at this. So this colony is made up of coral branches, you can see. So in one single branch, you can see lots of cups attached to this branch. These are cups, right? Attached to this branch. So at the end of this, each cup, you can see very small filaments, kind of bristles kind of thing coming out, right? Then if I take more closer look, you can see these filaments. So this is called coral polyp, one single polyp. In single, we call it as a coral buhubava, right? So that polyp is living in this cup, but when the polyp is feeding or taking food, it comes out like this, right? It comes out and start feeding. So this is polyps, right? Coral polyps. This is another polyp from another species. So this is another polyp from another species. So you can see the polyp's mouth, and those are tentacles, right? So if I go back here, so this is again cross section of a polyp. So this is a mouth, this is a calcium carbonate skeleton secreted by the polyp, right? This is one single animal. So if I go back again, in this colony, there might be about several thousand polyps living, right? If I go back here in this setup, maybe millions of polyps. If I go back here in this setup, in this reef, maybe billions of polyps, and they get together and develop a reef, right? So then Sadiha, that is my explanation about corals. So you saw the reef. On the reef, you saw coral colonies. On the coral colonies, various types of colonies depending on the species. And if you take one single colony, that is made up of coral polyp. Coral polyp is a small sesame seed type of animal. So therefore, when you walk here, if you do reef walking, when you go for a vacation, or maybe if you're having a bath, if you walk on this reef, you can understand you are not only walking, you are killing all these tiny, sesame seed type of animals in not millions but billions, right? That is my basic explanation about corals, right?
Yeah, that was a brilliant, elaborate explanation. I mean, from the larger picture, from the big picture to the microscopic picture of what a coral actually is. And as you mentioned, yeah, I mean, Sri Lanka is an island country, but most of the accidents that happen in our country are based on drowning. I mean, we don't know to swim, although being an island nation. And you also mentioned that, tourists only know, don't know, most of the 90% of the tourists don't know about what these corals are. So I believe this presentation of yours gave a precise, wonderful description as to what they are, and hope our audience got that as well. And moving on, so another point that I should mention is that coral reefs only occupy less than 1% of the ocean floor from the resources I got, right? So sometimes one person might doubt, it's just 1%. Very insignificant. There are 99% things to worry about. So why bother about this 1%? So in your opinion, what is the importance of corals? Like, why should we bother about that 1%? How would you answer that?
Yeah, in our planet, the ocean, the land, what's our land cover in the ocean? Land cover is only 29%. 71% is covered by the ocean, right? So out of this 71%, coral represent only 1%, right? Why we bother, right? I will start. So marine, coral providing 3D structure, I showed you, right? It provides a 3D structure. So that 3D structure is the cradle for whole marine life. At least two-thirds of animals, they start their life in this cradle, right? Then they migrate to the deep ocean. So when they migrate to the deep ocean, we have started, humans have started another industry called fisheries, right? So we are depending on fisheries, right? And tourism, right? And I showed you that coral reefs is a large, it acts as a barrier. So it absorbs all the oceanic energy. Oceanic energy come through the waves. How frequent waves are. Waves, wave pound on reef in even at 1 minute interval, right? So can you imagine the amount of calories they bring, amount of joule is trillions of energy, sun's energy. So that really protect our coastline from erosion. On the other hand, coral reef absorb carbon dioxide because this tiny animal I showed you, its calcium carbonate skeleton. So calcium carbonate, in the calcium carbonate skeleton, the calcium are from the water, the carbonate part comes from the air. They absorb from air water interface, they absorb from seawater. So coral reef or the whole ocean absorb about 1/3 of carbon dioxide we are emitting. Carbon dioxide is the greenhouse gas. It retains huge amount of energy or heat. So more you have more carbon dioxide we are having in our atmosphere means atmosphere get more heated.
And then global warming.
Global warming. So Earth become an uninhabitable place for us, right? So corals make it as a habitable place. And coral again, they have zooxanthellae, your name, right? Zooxanthellae. They photosynthesize and they release oxygen. So corals give us the life. Corals make this planet as a habitable place. So therefore, we have to concern about that, right? So if you think about a future food security, you have to think about coral reefs. If you think about sea level rise, you have to think about coral reefs. Otherwise, whole Caledonia, Mora to down south, the whole coastal plateaus will be inundated with the sea level rise. So we have to think about that 1%. Is 1%, but it's a life, right? Therefore, we have to care and we have to start act to protect that.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. And in order to add a little bit more, something that I read also about this is that, as you mentioned, the coral reefs are rich with biodiversity. And as a result of that, scientists have found many new medicines in the 21st century that are from the coral reefs. I mean, possible cures for cancer, arthritis, viruses, and so many other diseases can also be found in these corals. So that is how important it is, as you descriptively mentioned. And this leads,
If I had some, so lots of now people, earlier we used to go to jungles, forest to collect some medicinal plants, but now scientists go to reef for looking for some potential chemicals. And I hope you use fairness cream, Sadira, and your team, and use sunblock.
Yeah,
right?
definitely, yes.
So corals, they live in very light area, almost exposed to the sun from morning to afternoon, right? They are exposed to UV rays, right? So why don't corals don't get bleached like us, right? So the issue is that these tiny animals secrete very thin slime layer. There is slime layer, right? So that slime layer contains some compounds, they really block all the UV rays, right? Then what our scientists did, we extracted this slime layer and understood the structure of that compound, and we multiplied that in our laboratories and added them in some creams and sold them as sunblock. So whatever cream you are using, right? So it came from coral reefs. You showed me that.
Whoa, yeah, that shows how important it is and how much we don't know as well when it comes to corals. That was a brilliant explanation. And moving on, so now we spoke about how important it is, but are we acknowledging that? I mean, considering about what is happening right now, like what is the present status of all of these corals? Because according to a report done by the Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network between 2009 and 2018, they have found that there has been a progressive loss of about 14% of the coral from the world's coral reefs. So I guess it's high time to acknowledge that, you know, corals are having a hard time to survive. And so in your opinion, how would you describe the present status of the corals?
Yeah, we call them as a GCRMN, Global Coral Reef Monitoring Network. And there's another agency called ICRI, International Coral Reef Initiative. And there's another initiative called CODIO, Coral Reef Degradation in the Indian Ocean. There are lots of initiatives where we used to work to protect coral reefs, right? And yes, this your statement is right. So coral reefs are degrading, and in our context, if you think about if you take our coral reefs, especially as Hikkadu, my understanding is that my estimate is that in Hikkadu the live coral percentage is about 7%, right? Hikkadu is a kind of dead mortuary for corals, right? So what are the threats we are facing? Threats are twofold. One is anthropogenic or human induced, what the threats from us, and again second one is threats from environmental perspective, right? So again, if I go to the presentation to discuss about threats. So first thing is we call it as a blast fishing, right? So we use dynamites or blast to kill fish. For quick fish, within milliseconds you can kill lots of fish and take them back. This is a dynamite. If you haven't seen a dynamite, right? Used used by fishermen. This dynamite is a matchstick, you know. So this is a reef, 3D reef with lots of fish and corals, and the same reef just after dynamiting, right? You can see the difference, right? What happened? So in this dynamite blasting, it releases huge amount of energy in milliseconds time, very short time, and it penetrate or travel through the water column in very high significant efficiency. So that blast, the shocking shock waves destroy everything like this, right? So this really kills coral. Not only corals, think about the animal eggs. Not eggs we see in our markets, but animal fish eggs, very tiny eggs, destroyed by corals. And these are British Sergeant ship in Kayankani, the same ship after blasting, right? So you can see, right? So not only that, this is before and after. You can understand the damage, right? And not only that, the divers, they dive and collect those dead fish, right? And sell them. It's a totally illegal issue, right? And using moxinet. This moxinet is a small kind of mosquito net. Its height is about 1 meter. It's again illegal. It's banned, but it is used like this. So this is used for collect ornamental fish, and they dive and cover the reef coral colonies and extract fish, live fish out. So before they to take the fish out, they take iron bar and put that into the to the coral colony and break them into small pieces, right? Then the fish come out from the coral and end up in the net. So if they collect when they collect one fish, they destroy 3 or 4 coral colonies, moxinets. So that is why it's banned. Still, our fishermen are using coral colonies. Then bottom set nets. They are not supposed to lay on coral reefs. They are supposed to lay on sandy bottoms. But when they come out, it comes with corals, right? These are so this catch we call as a bycatch, unintentional catch, right? You can see the result. And reef walking, as I told you, this is what you are doing when you go to Pigeon Islands, or maybe Hikkadu, maybe your Polhena, maybe your in Kaluthara. This is what you are doing, right? This is local people, but you walk on reef like this, right? So you kill them, you break them, right? You can see these are our local people working on coral reefs. So now you know the structure of the reefs. Now you know the damage you are causing. I don't need to explain it. It's self-explanatory, right? So even people are sitting on the reefs, on live corals. You can see the foot. You can see the damage, right? From one single foot, right? He was, moving his foot when he was talking, or while he was sitting. The damage, right? So these pigeon islands, these are underwater scenery. The people, how they break, right? And with the climate change, you can see this is dead. You can see this is live coral. This looks dead, but for a layman, this looks very beautiful, right? But this is a dead coral area.
So why do you say that it's dead? Is it because of the color? Because white color represents a dead.
Yeah,
color.
but if you look at here, you can see all the the polyp structure very clearly, right? Very colorful. You can see all the dots, very polyp structure very clear. But when it is died, it is covered by algae. You can't see any polyp structure here, right? Everything is covered, uniform surface, right? The before and after, you can see the difference, right? So this is live, this is dead. You cannot see polyp or any detailed in these branches, right? So then animals, some animals, this is called crown of thorn starfish. They eat corals. So people walk and boat anchoring also, right? They anchored on a reef, right? And glass bottom boats in Hikkaduwa. So this is untouched, undamaged because of glass bottom boats. This is damaged, right? But for a person who looks see this for the first time, it's very good. He's he will be amused, but it's damaged reef. You can see propeller cut from propellers of boats, right? The boat have propellers. When the boat cross these reefs in low tide, the propeller act as a lawnmower, right? Like cutting grasses, it cuts, across the reef. You can see propeller cut. This is untouched, this is undamaged, but this is damaged. The difference, right? You can see the difference between live and dead, right? And another issue, the waste coming from your home. How much waste? Average Sri Lankan produce about 500 grams of waste per day, right? From shopping bags, from plastic bottles sitting around your sitting room, maybe around your kitchen, within your washroom. Think about the amount of plastics you are using. So we release our plastic generation is about 500 grams per day. So everything end up in the coast like this, right? And various types of foams, right? And then microplastics, the next issue. So corals eat microplastic, and they because scientists have found microplastic in coral tissues. And global temperature. So those are the anthropogenic, and these are natural. So you can see with the time, so how much carbon dioxide we are emitting, right? And because of that, these are various scenarios, right? About the sea surface temperature, right? From here to 2100, very high steep we are expecting, right? So if this happened, right? So this is constant, but if we take these are various scenarios, this will happen, right? Very high carbon dioxide release, and with that we expect sea level rise, right? So if you read about climate change, you will learn about this, but I am not discussing this in detail, but I can answer, but since I don't have enough time. So these are the extreme sea level rise, 2.5 meters in 2100. It means whole Colombo, Mora will be underwater, right? In 2100, if this extreme scenario happens. And when we have high temperature, you can see thermal stress to corals. So coral start bleaching, right? And this is bleaching. Bleaching is a temporary, this kind of a symptom, right? This is coral polyp, corals with zooxanthellae in. When the temperature goes up, zooxanthellae leave the coral. So it's bleached. These are bleached. But when the temperature or the environment goes back to the normal level, they again accommodate zooxanthellae and become healthy. But if that stress level or stress factor keeps for 2-3 weeks time, the corals die and start covering with filamentous algae, then become dead. You will see like this. This is healthy, this is bleached, this is dead. And this is a temperature. So these healthy corals, when the temperature increases, corals first bleach, but if the temperature goes back to the normal, corals recover. If the temperature don't go back to the normal level, corals cannot recover, they die. Then they die and they start covering with algae. You can see the dead coral. Right? Therefore, bleaching is temporary. It's a temporary stress sign. But if you don't take actions, it will definitely die with the time. So this said, this is healthy, this is bleach, this is covering with algae. You can see a light green here, right? And the same, you can see live, you can see polyp structure here. Also, you can see the polyp structure. That you can't see the polyp structure here because it's dead. Look at this bleached, right? Whole reef is bleached because of climate, the temperature issue. This is bleached. This is dead, covered with algae, right? And look at this live and dead reef, right? And look at this reef. This is the picture I took, right? This for you is a very nice coral colony, but this whole colony is dead. This is bleached. This is dead, and even covered with some other animal settlements are there. The whole colony is dead because of climate change. So you can see the very frequent climate events, high thermal stress events because of the climate change. So therefore, we expect that corals are not thriving well. This is 2017 from January to December, January to same year September. Coral cover in Pulinda. Look, the April, May is our warmest months, right? Look, live coral cover dropped into dead coral cover from 25% to about 5% dead, right? 45% of corals died in Pulinda, right? Look, the impact of thermal stress. This looks good, but this is bleached, right? So those are the factors I mentioned. So the other thing is coral compete with algae, because when we release lots of chemicals, when you really release lots of nutrients, they are added into coastal waters. But when you have high amount of nutrients in coastal waters, algae take advantage and grow fast. Then they take over corals, they overgrow corals. Then coral reef convert into algal reef with the time. And some animals spreading very fast. And like sea urchins, right? They spread very, very fast and kill all the corals and even kill all the algae. You can see, you can't even think of walking there. You know the damage of sea urchins. And sea level rise. Sea level rise, lots of hard construction needed. Good, so it's good for you. You will get more jobs, right? These are engineering construction. But this really shows that our lands and our life is in great danger because of sea level rise. So those are the threats faced by us, and I will not say faced by corals, but those are the threats faced by us.
Well said, Professor. I mean, the biggest threat to our ecosystem is not environmental pollution, it's not global warming, it's not the pandemic, it's just us humans alone, because we have always been the troublemakers behind the scenes. And it was indeed very painful to look at all those pictures because there's so much that we don't know that is happening right now also. And it would not be complete if I didn't touch on this one point. So you showed images of the microplastic pieces that are causing trouble, right? So us Sri Lankans encountered a similar situation very recently that caused a lot of destruction in the ocean, the Express Pearl incident, which happened in May. So in a precise way, how do you think this has damaged our ecosystem or like the corals?
Yeah, Express Pearl, the issue is that yes, we expect that Express Pearl release huge amount of solid waste because more than about 500 containers, they were washed off from the ship and ended up in the ocean floor around the ship. And those containers and all burnt items, burnt plastics and burnt solid waste. So they really physically damage all the underwater substrate, bottom substrates. Substrate means sandy bottom and coral reefs. So they do some physical damages. In addition to that, during the event, it releases huge amount of very hot water, right? Highly heated water. So that water is again got diluted with the currents, but still that's hot enough to really reach the bottom, right? But still, hot water is less dense. It keeps on the top, but sometimes because of the currents, they can reach the bottom. So if they reach the bottom, definitely they kill those very delicate corals. On the other hand, it released huge amount of chemicals. It's not one single chemical, because we were talking about nitric acid, one single chemical. But if a ship burn, is a kind of billions of chemicals released in one single time. Unknown chemicals, known chemicals, a kind of soup. So whole ocean became a chemical soup at that time. So some chemicals are lethal, some chemicals are chronic, some chemicals are very toxic, some are less toxic. So depending on the toxicity, our animals got affected. So if you talk about coral reefs, the issue was that until now the reef, the whole area is still very exposed to southwest monsoon. Therefore, the diving is not possible because the Express Pearl happened in, I think, in May or June period. So that's the period where the southwest monsoon starts. It prevails until October, November. So now is almost end of October, November. Now this is the time the monsoon shift from southwest to northeast. So maybe within next couple of weeks time, the sea will be flat in Colombo. So your Mount Lavinia beaches will be very flat. You can go for sea bathing and beach walking. You can go. Then that's the period really allows us to go diving. So scientists in me will go and dive there, and we'll try to understand the real damage caused by this chemical, solid waste, and other heat waves. So until such time is very much unknown, because with these currents and wind, the ocean flow is so much turbid and very what is murky. You can't even see your palm, such murky. And if you dive, you can't stay one single place. You are like in a washing machine, right? Such strong waves and actions. So we expect to go at the middle of November and have a look. But we expect to see some very kind of massacre kind of devastation there. But we'll see.
All right, looking forward for hopeful, optimistic results. And yes, really love that scientific explanation behind it. That was brilliant. And now we spoke about the importance of corals, what causes the destruction, and the present status of the corals, especially with all the shipwrecks that have been happening. So I think now it's high time to discuss how we can conserve these corals, because it's clear and it's obvious right now that corals are an essential part of our ecosystem. And it also should be mentioned that coral reefs grow very slowly, at an average rate of just 2 centimeters per year, I assume. So it's very important that we start conserving now itself, I guess. So according to your knowledge and experience, especially in NEPA and all the other projects that you have been involved in, what are the effective methods that we could do in order to conserve these corals?
Yeah, to control corals, we can again think about these factors, especially to manage corals, right? And first one is, we have to use some legal tools. For example, we can stop, we can ban some fishing types, fishing gear. So we can ban some fish species. Corals are already banned, right? But not only banning, but better implementation is needed. We have road rules, but are we following that? The issue. The same theory applies here. We have lots of regulation tools available, but applying them in real field and the citizens follow these rules and regulations is an issue. And on the other hand, the law enforcement officers, are they really applying these rules on the real grounds is the issue, right? So that the sort of things we can implement, right? And we can establish some marine parks. So marine parks, you cannot do fishing. You can go, but you can go and observe, but you can extract fish. So you can't do some activities. Some activities are controlled. So therefore, we expect that marine parks will give corals and other marine animals to, kind of protective areas to live. And once they thrive there, they can swim out of the marine park. That is called spillover. So one day spilled over, fishermen can catch it. But at present, since we don't have much marine parks, fishermen fish everywhere. Therefore, fish and other animals, they don't have a place to live safely or maybe multiply, right? To develop their populations, increase the population. There are therefore no places. Therefore, we need more marine parks, right? And these are some marine parks and some restricted activities. I don't go to describe these, but use that at present in 40 countries contain no protected coral reef areas at present, right? And most of the countries, even though they have MPS, they are not managed in Sri Lanka also. We have a number of marine parks. If you go to Bar Reef, it's a marine park. It's a managed area, but you can do anything, right? It's still open access, right? And you can stop, you can declare some no fishing zones. You can close some seasons for fishing. You can give some quota for fishermen, and you can limit the numbers of fishermen. Or not only even for tourists, you can limit numbers. Then you can, have very, sustainable tourism, sustainable fisheries in these areas. And the awareness, starting from childhood, right? So you start learning this at this level, but this knowledge is needed from our childhood, right? And we need to change our mindset to become more environmental friendly, more nature friendly, or more, the future generations friendly people. So for that, awareness is needed. So that we can do from our kindergarten and even at school level, if not at least at university level. So that awareness is very much needed. And we can do some restoration. So like the project you are proposing with Mitsubishi, coral restoration. These are coral, we call them as coral nurseries. But if you do that, you should do it with proper understanding and proper knowledge, with proper planning. So otherwise, if you start doing this sort of coral nurseries, it will be a completely destructive exercise, right? So these are the things we did before tsunami in 2004. And these are some restored coral reef at the very beginning, but you can see some growth, but this is at the end. But I had a very big coral patch, but everything was, washed off by 2004 tsunami. These are restored coral reefs. You can see, the cement blocks we used, right? On the cement blocks, they are growing. In here also, you can see cement blocks. On the cement block, they are growing. So the size of this one is about 2 feet. Huge coral chunks we produce. But to do that, you should select species properly. You have to select a site properly. You should have a person with a better understanding about corals, and he should know coral ecology. He should know coral, the marine ecology. He should know ocean currents, ocean, temperature changes, everything. A person with a sound knowledge about the ocean, and sound knowledge about ocean management is needed. Otherwise, if any person who just jump into these businesses without that background, I never recommend that he will be a complete at this kind of, the project the whole project will be a disaster. And these sort of fiberglass, we discuss about plastic and foams and microplastic, but we have another issue with fiberglass. We don't have, as a country, we don't have a solution. So it's good for you as engineers, try to, in your final years, do some research, how to reuse them more, how to use fiberglass in a more meaningful way. So these are some solution for that. Department of Fisheries, they collected these boats and dumped them in deeper waters, expecting to develop them as a fed fish aggregating devices, or maybe artificial reef, because that gives a 3D structure. On the top of that, we expect that corals come and grow, and we expect that on those structures, animal or fish come and settle. And right, but the issue is that we should definitely declare these areas as no fishing zones. So without no fishing zone, dumping this will be another waste, right? So therefore we should work together, wildlife, fisheries, tourism, academia. So that collaboration is needed, and even this one. So these buses were dumped, but at the very beginning we can expect some pollution, short-term pollution, but longer term this will give some some fish diversity if we manage this properly, and if you select the site properly, we can expect some prospects after these projects. And we can engage in beach cleanups, reef cleanups activities. Maybe these are reef cleanups, these are beach cleanups, and to collect plastic. Those are things you can do, right? And again, to establish smaller marine parks by by at least through your club. Those are possible, very simple scenarios you can engage in. So those are the things I can propose at this moment, but everything should be based on sound knowledge. So that's why this information you are getting today will be a very bonus point and bonus very strong background for you all.
Yes, very well explained. It makes a lot of sense. And my other question was just going to be, now, we always see big companies, organizations doing big projects like this in order to conserve the corals or clean the ocean and all. So my question was going to be like, as an individual, as just one human, how can we make a difference? And I think your images explain that as well. So just anything else that you would like to add to that, as an individual, what can we do?
From individual level, what you can do is, I mentioned that all of us can't go to the beach and to the sea and do that. So we should have some dive, the labor allocation. So one group can go to the beach and do those restoration part. Still you can enjoy, you can contribute by reducing your plastic waste generation. By planting trees, you can do that, right? By educating, you can engage into that, right? And spreading this news, right? And those are the things you can do, right? Because there are lots of areas definitely where we can work at your household level. So use a reusable bag, go for 3R methods. If not, go for 6R: reuse, recycle, rethink, repair, right? So those kind of things. If you go to, if you are jogging in morning and afternoon, right? You take your the luxury car to, maybe you drive for maybe 2-3 kilometers, then you jog, right? So why can't you start walking to the jogging track and at least run to the jogging track and do jogging there? Why can't you use a bicycle instead of taking the car, right? So become environmental friendly, become more greener, right? Why can't you plant a big root ball tree during your birthday instead of having a big party and again spending throwing away all your money? So make it more meaningful, right? Think about that, because now at the moment the world is working for a sustainable development. Sustainability is based on 3 pillars: environment, economy, and society, right? Environment should be sound, economy should be sound, society should be, people should be have a we have to establish their well-being, but at the same time we have to think about future generations, right? While doing that, you can engage in this very tiny thing. I don't expect for you to do everything, right? But we can do tiny things, but it really matters at the end, right? So my last birthday, I planted a tree in my city, right? I talked to the mayor and found a place, and I spent some maybe 10,000 rupees and plant a big tree. Now I know this my tree, but if you go to my university, you will see I can name maybe 15, 20 trees planted by me. Those are big trees now, right? Even at my home garden, I have bigger trees planted by me. Therefore, I know that I am carbon negative because the amount I emit, my carbon footprint is always offset by trees planted by me. So if you, because the planet need 3 trillion trees, 3 trillion trees to not to this the climate change, the curve, sending back, but at make it flat. The planet need 3 trillion trees. So those are the things you think about your the Morocco area. Your roads are deserts. There's no tree to have to take a shade. So think about that. Select one road and plant trees there. So those sort of things you can do. While one of your team go to the beach, start cleaning. Another team can do some reef cleanups, and another team can go and do some restoration. So those are things you can do, right? So those are the things at your individual level, family level, village level, university level can do. So think about that, and my main request is to do something. At the end of the year, you can think, okay, I have achieved, I have got 10 A's, so 10 A pluses. But in addition to that, think about what are the good deeds you did, right? Yes, you had to help people, but for the environment side, think how many trees you planted, how many beach cleanups you did, right? Keep that sort of commit I really need from you.
Yes, that was a very open-minded explanation, very inspiring, of course. I mean, sometimes some people might live in newer area and they might have no access at all to the beach. So we're not saying that everyone should go to the beach and do these cleanups, but we can always start individually in our own small ways, and it will add up and make a big difference. And moving on, we've almost reached the end of our discussion. And finally, I would like to ask something about our flagship project, Zooxanthellae. So for those of you who don't know what this is a project that strives to focus on the regrowth of coral reefs by installing permanent concrete structures in the seabed. So the first chapter of this project was successfully concluded in the Rumasala Jungle Beach, and now we are ready to execute the second chapter of it as well. So as a person who has an idea about our project, what do you think does it make a big difference? How does it impact on the corals and like the other ecosystems that revolve around it? What do you suggest?
Yeah, it's a good initiative, but as I mentioned you earlier clearly, so it should be based on sound knowledge and sound background, right? At the same time, good that you come from Morocco and do it there in down south, but you should always go there at least one by one. So because in coral restoration, the very continuous monitoring is needed, continuous follow up is needed. So without following up, you will not succeed, because then you restore and after 6 months time, you remember I have a coral plant there, then you get there, you can't even find the place because sea is always changing, and with the high energy, it might corrode or might break into pieces and destroy or float. Therefore, all continuous follow-up is needed. So therefore, do that. So good that you have a small team working there. So their engagement is needed, their commitment is needed, but at the same time, their awareness and their sound knowledge about ecosystem is needed. So since they are engineers, I expect all of them to read about corals and learn about corals, and it's a kind of trial and error for you. So with the time, start small and develop it. Start small and develop, right? So if you start such project at the very large scale at the very beginning, you will not become success. Therefore, start small. With the experience you develop, and at the same time, I encourage your team, your diving team, and the people who will work on that on the ground level to understand the real ecology of the ocean, not the whole ocean ecology, but ecology of the corals and ecology of that area. Then with that background, with their commitment and continuous feedback, I think that will be a success. So I always wish to see a success through your project.
Thank you very much, sir. And yes, as you mentioned, we can't just play with the nature because it's not our sport. It's not a sport or anything like that. We should not play with the nature. We should get the expertise and everything about that before we dive deep into it. And thank you for that. And all right, so this ends this discussion. It was a very fruitful conversation, and also it consisted of many outbursts of different emotions, like the empathy towards our nature, towards the corals, and the pain when you see all of these destruction that revolves around the sea. So your pictures and everything were fantastic. It really showed how important it is. And I'm sure the audience as well understood that it's not just what we see in Finding Nemo or SpongeBob SquarePants. There's so much more for these corals. And now it's time to hear from our audience. So I got my questions clarified. So it's time for you guys to pop up and unmute yourselves and ask a question. Or if you are shy, you can drop a message in the chat section and we can get them clarified as well. And also do note any language is okay. So we are happy to take them all. So any questions, dear audience?
Hello, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Manusha, you are audible.
So, dear sir, my question is, can we restore the coral reefs everywhere, or are there any specific places?
Yeah, the first answer is that we can't observe corals everywhere, right? So on a sandy beach, you cannot restore a coral reef because corals need a hard substrate. Therefore, you cannot restore coral reefs in Mount Lavinia beaches. You can't restore coral reefs. If you go to Hambantota, you can't restore coral reefs because the sea is so rough, very energetic seas. And even some east coast, yes, some places you can. So therefore, the site selection is very much needed, very much essential, right? So on the other hand, restoration means there's a misconception. So we cannot establish a forest or jungle by planting trees, right? It's a natural process. But through coral restoration, we cannot establish coral reefs. But what we can do is we can increase the living coral cover of the coral reef. So we have to understand that. Therefore, coral restoration is possible, but with sound knowledge and sound, understanding about the system. And for that, site selection is essential. The species selection is essential. Your commitment is essential, right? And you should know proper techniques, right? To technologies. At the same time, proper troubleshooting is needed. If something happens, how to rectify it. So those, if people are accomplished with that, backgrounds, coral restoration is possible. But if you restore corals, definitely you have to find a place where that place used to have corals, now degraded, because you are restoring a degraded reef, right? And such a degraded reef you have to find. If in the reef, then you have to find exactly where you are going to restore, because everything is depending on the ocean currents. So those factors are very important. If you fulfill all these factors, you can do. But very simply, you can't restore corals everywhere. But there are some places you can really do. You can really restore some areas, but in that case also, you have to be very careful when you are doing it. Manusha.
Thank you, Manusha, for that question. Any other questions, the audience? Actually, I have another question, something that came up. I don't know whether it's a silly question, but so you mentioned that there are different stages when a coral dies and it gets bleached, and then after that, if it doesn't recover, it dies. So do these dead corals just remain under the seabed? So, I mean, can't we bring them back to life like after it dies?
When I die, can you take me back to the life?
So
Same.
those corals just remain
When,
there.
when they are bleached, you can do something, right? You can transfer them into deeper waters, colder waters, and that will recover back to the normal situation. But when they are died, that's the end of the story.
Yeah, that is understandable.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I have a question. So, how we can find that corals live or die death? So, is there the symbols or anything?
Yeah, if you take live coral piece, is very fresh, it's smelly, it always cover with we can say very thin layer of saliva, something like that, always covered with. And you can easily observe underwater the coral polyps clearly, very neat coral piece. I showed you earlier. But in a dead coral reef, everything is covered with coralline algae or filamentous algae or algae. You can't see coral polyp structures, right? So very easy to understand. So sometimes when they are breached with sand, everything is all the tiny parts are breached and become smooth, make into a smoother surface like chalk quality never win. But some dots are available, but still those are dead. But in live part, you can see all the tiny polyp structure, very neat polyp structures can be seen, but it should be underwater. If you take it out, it's stress and start secreting all these secretions and start smelling. So this is how you distinguish between dead and live corals.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Isuru, for that question. And I just got another question, and it was a private message, so I put it for everyone. So the question says, you mentioned about reef cleaning. How can we clean coral reefs without damaging them?
Yeah, when you dive and snorkeling, you collect all the alien matters, maybe beer bottles, plastic items, plastic wraps or plastic bottles, or maybe fish hooks or fish lines and other ropes, everything you clean, or maybe fishing nets. But if they are lightly entangled, we can remove them. Then we take it out. Otherwise, we cut them off, right? But they are embedded in the system, right? For example, you have a coral reef and you found a larger iron box, and even on the box, the corals are there now, settled. Now, the coral reef has welcomed that alien piece and even have settled on the reef. So in that case, we are not removing it. It comes with the experience, right? But yes, if the iron part are very new and there's no settlement on it, and if the removing it does not cause any damage, then we remove it. Otherwise, we don't remove it, right? So it's everything site specific. So when you dive, when you look at, you have to think about that, whether to remove it or not. But sometimes we come across large items and some are very much embedded in the reef. So we don't remove, because removing cause more damage than leaving it there. So we take decisions on the spot by just looking at that.
All right, we hope that answered your question. Thank you for that question. Any other questions, dear audience? Looks like we have a very enthusiastic coral loving audience.
Excuse me, sir.
Okay, yes, Isuru.
Yeah, sir. I have a question. Another question. So how effort the sea grasses and the algae due to the coral reefs, but so normally their uh, consumers are the fishers, no? uh, they uh, they have to they eat the like algae and the so I can you ask in Sinhala, sir? It's okay.
Okay.
So දැන් එතකොට අපිට දැන් අර මේ algae නුයි සීග්‍රාස් නොයි කොර ඒ කියන්නේ වැවෙන කොටස එතකොට දැන් එයාලා වැවෙන එක කොරල් වලට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද සහ දැන් ඒක එයාලා දැන් ඒක වැවෙන එක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් එයාලා මේ එක අට්ටම අඩු කරන්නේ දැන් අර ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ ආවට ජීවත් වෙන මාළු සහ ඒ ජීවි ප්‍රජාව නිසා එතකොට ඊට එහා වර්ධනයක් වුණොතින් ඒකට කොරල් රීෆ් වල වර්ධනයට බලපානවද සහ එතකොට දැන් අපි ඒ වගේ දේවල් වුණොතින් අපේ කොරල් රැක ගන්න සර් අපිට මොන වගේ දේවල්ද කරන්න පුළුවන්?
Yeah, when you add more nutrients, especially for example Nuorellia. So when the potato farmers, when they add more urea, most of them are ended up in the coastal waters, right? So then when you have more nitrate, phosphate, the algae start growing fast because algae take it and algae වර්ග වේගින් හැදෙනවා. ඒතර කොරල් එකේ වේගය ඉතාමත් අඩුයි. ඒතර ඇල්ගී එක පොඩියට ඇවිල්ලා මේක ටක් ටක් ගාලා හැදෙලා මේක කොරල් එක වහගෙන මේක හැදෙනවා. ඒතර කොරල් එකට අපි කිව්වොත් ඕන ඉරේලිය ඕන. ඒතර කොරල් එකට ඉරේලිය ආවේ නැහැ කියන්නේ කොරල් එක මැරෙනවා. ඒතර කලක් යනකොට කොරල් රීෆ් එක සම්පූර්ණයෙන් වැහෙනවා ඇල්ගී වලින්. ඒතර ඇල්ගල් රීෆ් එකක් බවට පත් වෙනවා. කොරල් ටික ඔක්කොම මැරිලා. ඒතකොට ඔතෙන්දී අපිට මේක අඩු කරන්න නම් එක්ක අපිට we have to start from the beginning. We have to think about proper fertilizer usage එකෙන් පටන් ගන්න ඕනේ. නමුත් අතෙන්ට ආවට පස්සේ අපි සමහරකට අපි algae දැක්කොතින් අපි ගලවලා අයින් කරනවා. නමුත් shallow areas වල මේක කරන්න අමාරු මොකද when there's algae they are in large පලාතම නිකන් ඉස්ලාක තනකොළ තියෙන ground එකක් වගේ. ගලවලා අයින් කරන්න අමාරුයි. මොකද ඩයිව් කරද්දී අපිට ඩයිව් කරනකොට අපේ කැපැසිටි ගොඩක් අඩුයි. මොකද අපිට මූව්මන්ට්ස් අඩුයි. අපි in limited area වල ඉන්න නිසා අර ටැංකිය යා ටික අඩුයි ඉන්න තියෙන ටයිම් එක අඩුයි. ඒකට පොඩි ඒරියාවක් තමයි ක්ලීන් කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. ඒතර ඕ කැපැසිටිත් එක්ක අර වගේ දෙයක් වුණ ගමන් අපිට හරීම අමාරු වෙනවා කන්ට්‍රෝල් කරගන්න. හරිද? ඒතර ඒක වුණ ගමන් අර ගොඩක් ඇල්ගී හැදෙනකොට මොතන ඇල්ගී කන මාළු එනවා. ඊට පස්සේ අර තේින්ටි කොරල් කන මාළු ටික ඩිසපියර් වෙනවා. කොරල් ටික දැන් නැති වෙච්ච නිසා. හරිද? ඒතර ඔන්න වගේ අපි කියන ෆේස් shift එකක් වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම ඒ ෆේස් shift එකේ ඉන්න සත්තුත් වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඉන්න ශාකත් වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම සම්පූර්ණ රීෆ් එකේ තියෙන ඉකෝසිස්ටම් එක කම්ප්ලීට් වෙන එක වෙනස් වෙලා යනවා. නමුත් මේ වගේ එක කන්ට්‍රෝල් කරද්දී අනිවාර්යෙන් අපිට අපි වෙන ඉන්ටිග්‍රේටඩ් අප්‍රෝච් එකක් සමෝදානිත තමයි කරන්න ඕනේ. කියන්නේ එක අපි ගිහලා කොරල් ටික මේ ඇල්ගිඩි ගලලා අයින් කරයි කියන එකත් එක ඇක්ෂන් එකක් වුණාට ඒක විතරක් මදි අපිට. හද වෝටර් ක්වොලිටි චේන්ජ් වෙනකොට වෝටර් ක්වොලිටි එක හදා ගන්නත් අපි දේවල් කරන්න වෙනවා. රටේ තීරණ ගැනීමේදීත් ඒක මොකද රටේ අරිදිර අනවශ්‍ය විදිහට වැඩිපුර පෝර දාන එකත් මේකට හේතු වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒතර ඒකත් බලා ගන්න වෙනවා. මොන ඕක අපේ සරල උත්තර දෙන්න බැරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නේ. මොකද එතෙන්දී අපි ගොඩක් සාකච්ඡා කළා. එතෙන්ට ඒ ටැලන්ට් ස්පෙસિෆික් විදිහට තමයි බොහෝ දැන් වලදී උත්තර ගන්න. නමුත් ඒ උත්තරේ එක ඇක්ෂන් අර මේකට මේ දෙක කරොතින් උත්තරයක් එනවා කියන්නේ නෙමෙයි. අපි මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට ඇක්ෂන්ස් ගොඩාක් අරන් තමයි මේකට යම්කිසි 100ක් උත්තරයක් නාවත් යම්කිසි ගන්න පුළුවන් උත්තරයක් ගන්න ගොඩක් ඇක්ෂන්ස් ගොඩක් ක්‍රියාකාරකම් කළා තමයි අන්තිම උත්තරයක් ගන්න වෙන්නේ.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right, we have one more final question that is also a private message, so I will put it in the chat section. It says, we know that the world is getting warmer, so that we should emphasize on stop global warming, not coral restoration. How do you approach that question?
Yeah, yes, we have to think about in the larger picture. We have to live first, right? Once the earth become a habitable place, then we can do everything, right? So if you think about the larger picture, yes, you can think about how to reduce global warming, how to reduce your carbon footprint. ඒකට ගන්න action ගන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් ඒ අතරේ මේකත් ගත්තා කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ, right? You can simultaneously, you can do coral restoration, you can do ecosystem, maybe seagrass restoration, you can do forest restoration, mangrove restoration, you can do. At the same time, you can switch off your unnecessary lights, you can switch off your air conditioning, you can use public transportation instead of you taking your own private transportation. You can jump into a bicycle, right? So those are very easy steps you can engage in without spending millions of money, right? This is just what you need is attitudinal change, right? So therefore, I don't see any issue with engaging in both activities. Think about global warming and engage in that, and become so sensible and act on that at the same time. Do restoration, to do coral restoration. You're gonna get married and have kids. You can do everything at the same time, right? So yes, that's my answer.
Yes, well said. So, I mean, you also mentioned that these corals help in reducing global warming, right? Because they absorb carbon dioxide, as you mentioned. So, indirectly, by restoring and conserving corals, I think we are, taking action against global warming as well. So, thank you, sir. And as we have approached the end of the Q&A session, really love that. Thank you for your enthusiasm. So thank you, dear Professor Terney, once again for taking your time on a busy Saturday night like this, and also for contributing towards our project and for sharing your vast knowledge. It was indeed a fruitful conversation, and I guess you are the best person we can possibly have when it comes to speaking about corals, and it was indeed a pleasure and honor to have you with us. So this is a small token of appreciation that we designed for you on behalf of the support you render to us. Thank you, sir, and all the very best in your future endeavors.
Thank you, Sadira and the team. I expect all of you to understand the gravity of this issue and understand what you can do, right? At the end of the year, think what you have done, right? Therefore, do something without wasting our time. Do something for our environment, do something for our younger generations, and do something for future generations, and that will remain at least. So that is I really expect from you, and I expect all of you to do some some result oriented and some tangible thing at the end to protect our environments. That's my last request from you.
Thank you, Sarima. That's a very powerful message. I hope all of us paid good attention to that. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you.
All right. It's a pleasure indeed to have you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Okay. Bye. Good night, all of you.
Good night, sir. Thank you.
Good night.
All right. So moving on, let us now see the highlights of our project, Zooxanthellae. So you probably got a slight idea about it. So this is a graphical representation of what our project is.
Imagine a world without coral reefs. As corals feed more than a quarter of the entire marine life, the fish population would be decreased. The fishermen would lose their jobs. People might not be able to fulfill their protein requirements. The tidal waves would hit the shoreline and erode. And the entire ecosystem would be unbalanced. With the arising threats faced by coral reefs, Rotaract Club of University of Mora initiated the project Zooxanthellae back in 2018. aiming to plant baby corals on the seabed around the Sri Lankan coastal shoreline. Continuing that legacy for the second time this year, we are planting baby corals mounted on the concrete structures with a strong partnership with the Mitsubishi Corporation under the guidance of MEPA and collaboration with Sri Lankan Navy. So, passionate environmental lovers, get ready to witness the second legacy of Zoo Xanthally 2021.
Hope that gave you an insight of gifts. So don't miss out on this opportunity. And this applies to our amazing Facebook Live and YouTube Live viewers as well. So all the very best. And with that being said, I now hand controls to Rotaract Yasiru Atugaldara. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Zaida. So hello, everyone. So I can see some sleephead fishes, queen angel fishes, seahorses, and Australian barracudas, and so many other creatures today in the session. So, all right, so I would like to welcome you all. So I guess we all had an informative session, a very informative session with Dr. Terney Pradeep Kumara today. So, well, Saida said something about finding Nemo, right? Okay, so in that case, I guess a little guide on the sea would help you out. Well, let's head on to something exciting next. So we have a Kahoot session planned for you guys today about coral and seas. I guess you guys are all familiar with Kahoot sessions. Am I right? Okay. So in case you don't know what Kahoot is a mixture of questions. It's a simple quiz. All right. It's just a simple quiz. So you just have to Google Kahoot and then enter the pin related to the game. I'll be letting you know the pin in the next few seconds. And a special announcement. When it's over, we want the winners to take a screenshot along with their nickname, because otherwise it's going to be raising some issues when we contact the winners. Yeah, okay. So after this, will you be able to find Nemo? I don't know. Will you be able to fight sharks? I don't know that either. But will you be rewarded after this? Yes, indeed. All right. So without further ado, let's move on to the Kahoot. So guys, good luck. Okay, I'll be sharing my screen now. Okay, so you can see the pin on the screen, right? Guys, you just have to Google Kahoot and click on the first link and go to the site, and there will be a box saying that enter the pin, and you can see the pin on my screen. It's 6678034. You just have to enter the pin and join the session. And guys, when you're joining, please use your real name, because otherwise it's going to be hard for us to find the winners. All right. Okay, so there's 30 participants in the session. I encourage you all to join the session, because you will be rewarded with something delicious. You all like delicious things, right? Okay, so I encourage you all to join the Kahoot session. So far, we only have one. Guys. Okay, still one. You don't want treats, right? That's what I'm getting from this. Okay, let's wait for like another 2 minutes and let's start the Kahoot session. Guys, do you have a issue joining? If that's so, please put a text in the chat box. I'll refresh the page. Okay, seems like there's an issue. Let me refresh the page and come back again. Okay, sorry for the inconvenience caused. I guess now you can join. Okay, the new pin is 515629. Okay, we have one. We have two. Guys, use your real names. Okay, we have 4 so far. Okay, 7. Come on, guys, join the Kahoot session. We'll be rewarding you guys with something delicious. Okay, 11, 12. Okay, we have Thanos. Oh my God. Okay, there's 12 more. I encourage you all to join the Kahoot session. Okay, let's wait for another minute or two. There's 11 more in the audience who haven't joined the Kahoot session. We have Mohini as well. All right, so let's start the session. Okay, we have 19 and let's go. Okay, 3, 2, 1. All right. Okay, so what are Zooks and you have 4 answers. Pick the right one. Okay, time's running out. We have 12. Okay. Okay, so the correct answer is it's a photosynthetic algae. And moving on to the next, moving on to the leaderboard, we have Ravindu on the lead, Mila in the second place, and Menusha in the third place. Okay, the second question, where is the Great Barrier Reef located? We all know it's in Australia, but we have to be specific. Okay, 9 answers, 12, 13. All right. Okay, it's in the off coast of Queensland, Australia. Oh, the leaderboard changed. So it's now Chaz is in the lead, Kasun in the second place, and Menusha is in the third place. Okay, so how big is a single coral? Is it 3? Is it 6? Is it 10? Or is it 15 millimeters? Okay, answers coming in fast. 10 seconds on the clock. 2, 1, time's up. Okay, so a coral is 3 millimeters. Normally it's the size for coral. Okay, let's check the leaderboard. Okay, Manush is in the lead, Mohini in the second place, and Miller is in the third place. Okay, it's a long one. I'm not going to be reading this one because otherwise I'll be confusing you guys. Okay, 16 answers so far. 3, 2, 1, and time's up. Okay, so the question is, what are the major components that are released from the express pearl shipwreck that took place recently in Sri Lanka? And the answer is oil, nitric acid, and plastic pellets, which are harmful to the marine life. Okay, let's check the leaderboard. Menosh is still in the lead, and Mohini is in the second place, and Miller in the third place. All right, the fifth question of the Kahoot. Barrier reefs are located where? Okay, I think you know the answer if you were listening to the session today. 10 seconds on the clock. Right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Okay, so they are located far away from the shore. Okay, 6 people got that right. Okay, Mila is blazing through, and Mohi has a streak with 5 correct answers in a row, and Menusha is in the third place. Okay, so what is the largest coral reef in Sri Lankan Ocean? $14 answers. Okay, 15. Come on, guys. 16, and time's up. Okay, the largest coral reef in Sri Lankan Ocean is the Bar Reef in Kalpitiya. Okay, and the scoreboard is changing. Okay, now it's Mohini in the lead, and she's blazing through. In the second place, we have Menusha, and in the third place, we have Miller. Okay, the next question is a lengthy one as well. Okay, so there are 3 national marine parks in Sri Lanka which houses a major percentage of coral reefs. So what are they? Okay, so they are the Pigeon Island, Adams Ridge, and Hikkaduwa national marine parks. Okay, so only 3 people got that right. Moving along, and the scoreboard is still the same. Okay, so which animal phylum does coral belong to? You have 4 scientific names. I'm not going to be reading those out. Okay. Wow, answers are coming fast. You guys are really good at this. Okay, let's beat the time, and time's up. Okay, okay, the first one is the correct answer, and moving along. Okay, so Milan's in the lead, okay, and Mohin's in second place. I think she got one wrong. And we have Menusha in the third place. Okay, the 9th question. Out of the following, a global convention for practicing coral reef is... Okay, let's see how much you guys know about the global conventions. Okay, so the answer is ICRI, the International Coral Reef Initiative. And 7 people got that right. Wow, you guys are so much Great, better than me. I wouldn't guess that. Okay, so Mohini is in the lead, Miller's in second place, and Menusha in the third place. Okay, so which of the following is the major cause for the destruction of corals? Okay, think. Which one of the following is the major cause? What would it be? Okay, 14 answers so far. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the major cause for the destruction of corals is that coral bleaching events. Okay, moving along, and let's take a look at the scoreboard. Okay, Mohin is in the first place, Kasun in the second place, and Miller is in the third place. Okay, 11th question. A coral reef is composed mainly of this mineral. Okay, name the mineral. You have 4 different minerals here. 10 answers. Okay. Okay, so the correct answer is calcium carbonate. Okay, almost all people got that right. Oh, now it's Kasun in the lead, Mohini in the second place, and Ravindu is firing with a streak of 4 correct answers in a row. Okay, so which type of fish damages the coral reefs the most? Is it the butterfly fish, it's the angelfish, it's the crown-thorn starfish, or is it surgeon fish? Okay, it's the crown of thorns starfish. Okay. Okay, scoreboard is still the same. I mean, the top 3 places are still the same, others are changing. Okay, an important measure that can be taken to protect the coral reef is, let's see how much of you guys know the answer. If you were attentive during the session, you will know the answer for sure. Okay, and the time's up. Okay, so the correct answer is the recycle and dispose of trash properly. Okay, we have a new person in the third place. We have Kasun in the first, Mohin in the second place, and NTY in the third place. A coral reef is an offshore ridge built by small marine animals called, okay, what are they called? That's the question. Three, 2, 1, and the time is up. Okay, so the correct answer is coral polyps. Okay, and moving along, let's take a look at the scoreboard. Okay, Kasun is in the lead, and he's blazing through with the highest answer streak of 6. And Menusha is in second place, and Mohini is in the third place. Okay, the final question of the count session. Fringing reefs are located. Okay. It's an easy one, guys. Come on. All right, time's up. So they are located near the show, and let's take a look at who the winners are. Okay, in the third place, we have Menusha along with 6,071 points, and in the second place, DRW with 6,270 points, and the winner is Kasun with 9,359 points. Okay, we have 2 runners up, Mohini and Malinka. Okay, guys, I want you to take a screenshot of your screen so that we can confirm that it's you. Okay. All right, so since we are live streaming this event via Facebook as well, in case one of the winners are from the Facebook live stream, then he or she have put a direct message to our Rotaract page. And if the winner is from the Zoom session, then we want you guys to put a message containing a contact information to Ravindu Wickramage in the chat box along with the screenshot you took. He's a co-host of the meeting, so it won't be hard for you to find him. So I'm going to be, I'll tell his name again, Ravindu Wickramage. Okay, so that's the end of the Kahoot session, and over to you, Zaida.
Thank you, Rotaract Yasiru, for enthusiastically conducting that session. It was really interesting. And now, as we draw close towards the end, before we bid adieu, I now invite the co-chair of Project Zoozanthale, Rotaract Sandeepani Ranchagoda, to wrap up this stupendous webinar in grand style. Over to you.
Thank you. So good evening to the one and all present here. Respected guest speaker, Dr. Terney Pradeep Kumara, Mrs. Menaka Senaviratna, and all the participants. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this webinar. On behalf of Project Zoozanthale and Rotaract Club of University of Mora, I extend my gratitude to our Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Terney Pradeep Kumara, to take out time from his busy schedule to grace the webinar. Thank you so much, sir, for inspiring and encouraging us from the very beginning of the Zoozanthale journey. And also, thank you, sir, for this insightful webinar that helped the audience to see the importance of the unseen saviors of this globe and their future. Also, I would like to extend my gratitude to our exclusive strategic partner, Mitsubishi Corporation, especially the senior executive of Mitsubishi Corporation, Mrs. Menaka Senaviratna, for gracing this occasion and for your immense support throughout the project. Without your support, we won't be able to make Zoozanthale a success. I would like to thank the digital media partner for the webinar, Impulse, for joining with us. I must thank the co-chairpersons of this project and the organizing team for working hard for the past few days to make this webinar successful. And for all the hard work you have put into making Zoozanthale a reality amidst all the barriers you had to face. I cannot thank everyone enough for their involvement and their willingness to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones always. I congratulate all the winners of the Kahoot session as well, and everyone who joined hand with us via Zoom and Facebook as well for your active participation to make this webinar a success. The days of becoming the dream of Zoozanthale 2021 to 2022 are not very far. From next month onwards, you will get the chance to witness deployments. Stay tuned to join hands with a brand new chapter of coral restoration in Sri Lanka. I once again want to state that we are so grateful to our guest speaker, Dr. Terney Pradeep Kumara, here over this virtual stage. We thank you for being with us this time. It has been a great pleasure. And thank you so much. Over to you, Sai.
Thank you, Rotaract Sandeepani, for meticulously putting everything together. And now, as you all know, all good things must come to an end. But before we conclude this webinar, once again, I'd like to thank you all for being an enthusiastic, ocean-loving, coral-loving audience and for staying with us throughout the webinar. Hope you enjoyed this underwater adventure as much as I did. And before we bid adieu, small request, can we all switch on our videos in order to take a screenshot to remember this webinar? The virtual background has already been dropped in the chat section down below. Can we all switch on our videos? All right. Wonderful, wonderful to see all your faces. Can one of the OC members let me know whether everyone is there? Some more to go. Okay, we have more people turning on their cameras. All right, then without further ado, I'll take the screenshot before people drop. Smile, everyone. All right, thank you all very much. Thank you for cooperating. It's nice to see your faces. And with that being said, without further ado, I will not take any more of your time. I officially conclude this webinar, Enlightener. Hope you feel enlightened. And I am Saida Nazar, your host. A very good night, and most importantly, and this applies to our amazing Facebook Live. Nurture our corals and let them flourish. Goodbye.